Yeah. Tell me when it comes on. Okay. Let me know when you can hear me. Okay. All right. Hi. I don't know who's here. I hope the regular gang is here, but we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do something different today. That is that usually I've been doing my gouache paintings. I decided, hey, you know what? I haven't done anything digital in quite some time, so I'm going to go ahead and do something in Autodesk Sketchbook. It used to be called Sketchbook Pro. It went to Autodesk Sketchbook, and I think it's back to Sketchbook Pro now. And one of the things about it too is that one of the reasons why I like this software. First of all, I started using it earlier on, and it was very intuitive, very easy to learn, and it wasn't a lot of bells and whistles. I load my favorite brushes on here, even though if you look at Sketchbook Pro, what happened here? Okay, here we go. You look at Sketchbook Pro, there is a ton of brushes that you can see here. That some of them came with the program, some of them I downloaded from a site, which I don't know if that site is still available. Let me see, how did I get there? Help, Sketchbook blog, check for updates. Now, about all of that, there are no longer any updates coming from Autodesk Sketchbook because they discontinued this this program. It was free. That doesn't mean that it's not available. It's still available, but it's not free anymore. But it's not costly either. It's $20 now, and you can either get it at the Apple Store if you have a Mac, or you can get it at the Microsoft Microsoft Store. But it's $20. It's $19.99. It was great when it was free. It's still great, but it's I liked it when it was free. But and there's going to be some other developer taking it over. It's called Sketchbook Inc. And they're doing it now. So they're going to take over, and whatever updates is going to eventually come from them. I haven't seen anything that they've done lately, though. So that's just an introduction to what we're going to do. Before I start, I want to share with you some of the other stuff. Now, Krita, everybody should know it's a free software, and I downloaded it. I have not used it for a while now, but it's something that I've used before, and that I've played around with. Again, it's just, for me, I like a software where it's not too many bells and whistles, too many things. I like something that I can rely more on my ability to paint and draw than have to look for stuff all over the place and get the right brush, and but it's free, so it's definitely something that's available, that's there now. Another low-cost software is Leonardo. Leonardo I like. There's not a lot of different brushes, but what they do have, let me see if I can click on what they do have. It's been a while since I've been on here. Okay, there's the color, here's the brush, here's the type of line. Okay, so this thing is not working for me right now. Okay, so it's frozen. Okay, so anyway, when it's not frozen, it's a great software. So I'm sorry about that. This is probably my favorite one right now, which is Rebel. Now Rebel it's cost more than the other ones. Leonardo costs like 39 bucks. It's forever in beta. When it's off beta, I guess it'll cost more money. Can't seem to do anything with this, but so I'm gonna close that out. But here you have Rebel. Rebel is a great software. However, it's going to cost you some money. I think it's $79 or something like that. But you can see, let me okay this. You can see from what you have here, the brushes are simple. Well, they're not simple in terms of they do a lot as far as here, for example, here's an oil brush, and let me go ahead and do something real quick here. Okay, so you see, okay, color, oils and acrylics, okay, pastel depth. Okay, I don't see it so much here, but let me. Oh, this is the acrylic brush. I'm sorry. I want the oil brush. Okay, the oil brush. Unlike the acrylic brush, here you're going to get. You see, you can see the paint texture. You see it has a nice impasto look. If I were to pick another color, maybe you can see it more. Let me see. Thick, dry. Oops. Not enough. Big enough. So, can you see? Can I see how the paint looks on the screen?
Yes, I do. It looks thicker in some places and not as thick
and you can
in others. And I can see the stroke of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. It really looks like real paint, you know. So they have and the other ones are just as good. They have a watercolor brush, and pastel brush, pencil. These look. It doesn't have a lot of different brushes, but they do great things. And then you have different options down here on the left, on the lower left. You have thin paint, you have thick paint, and you different different tips for the brushes. So anyway, that's Rebel. We're not using Rebel, and we're not using any other ones. We're going to go ahead and use Sketchbook, and this is going to be what we'll be working with. So this is Paint and Draw. I hope you guys will go ahead and paint along here. Just make sure that fit the view. Let me just make sure it all fits. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose a background color. And let me see. And this will be like a kind of warm gray. Just to start off with. And I'm going to pick up the paint bucket. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've done any of, I know where the paint bucket is. I wish they would put this paint bucket somewhere else, but I have to go here into Tool in Windows and pick out Toolbar and go ahead and hit the background and give it a color. Okay, so okay, so that's going to be the color I'm going to use for the background here. And I'm going to let the
that box that you were just in.
Yeah.
It's covered with by the camera with your photo. So you probably need to bring the box down. I'm talking this box.
This
right
box.
there.
Oh, okay. This is my layer editor. I'm sorry. Yeah, let me see, if I put my layer editor here, it's not going to make a difference. Okay, how that looks.
Okay, you have the.
Right here.
Okay, hold. Okay, you have the buy me a cup of coffee.
That's
stamp
fine. That's fine.
In that area.
That'll work. That'll work. Okay. So I see. I have it in the first layer. That's the background. So I'm gonna leave it that way. Now I could do background here. But what happens is when I do this, when I export it, it doesn't export that. So I'm going to, or at least it didn't from when I used it before. So I'm going to leave this layer untouched and open up another layer to draw on here. And when I do digital, I use a lot of layers. And let me see, where's the, okay, this, I like this. This is a size puck. They also have one, okay, for the color, for changing the color, but I'd rather use the color editor right here on the lower right. All right, so what I want to do is, block in this head. So, did anybody say anything yet?
Oh, no.
Okay. I hope I'm not talking to myself here. Okay. So, and also what I wanted to talk about last time we had talked, I had mentioned my instructor, Erwin Greenberg, and shared about that. And I also shared about a book by the artist Robert Henri called The Art Spirit. So what I did was I left a link that you can access below in the description of this video, and that link is a link to the book on Amazon.com. Amazon.com, right? And so if you're interested, he is just a great inspirational artist and teacher who taught at the Art Students League. And what his students did was take his lectures and critiques and all that he gave his students, and basically collected those in a book. And the book has been around since then, since the 1800s, been printed and reprinted and shared, and it is a great book. It's not about you won't see any pictures in there, but you'll see the words that are just really inspiring, and talks about art and the art spirit, the mindset that you have as an artist, and just how to approach your work, regardless of what it is. It really doesn't even have to be art for that matter. It could be anything, in his words, that makes an individual interesting to other people, and that is what he sees as being the art spirit, where anyone who calls interest to himself because of the things that they do, that makes it interesting and inspiring to other people.
Well, we have, I believe, Joy, J-O-I, Joy,
okay.
Says, I'm listening and drawing along.
Great.
Thanks for streaming.
Great. Okay. So now I'm using my eraser. What I did is that I can, right here, in any one of these tools, I can go to the top left and adjust the properties. So I adjusted the eraser So it only erased about 35%. If I take the slider and go 100%, it'll just take everything off. But I just don't want to do that. I just want to erase just enough.
Okay. Well, we have Richie Paints. He said, Richie. Hey Gil, I'm glad to catch you live to tell you you're one of my biggest inspirations and one of my favorite gouache artists.
Wow, that's really nice to say. Thank you.
Okay. Well, he's currently doing a gouache painting while this is happening.
Okay. Well, great. I normally paint in gouache. I just chose this day to just do something digital. I haven't done it in a while. Sometimes I get a request to do digital. Not that I got any of that recently, but I like to change up every now and then. I love gouache. I was painting in gouache all this week, and I will continue to do so, especially since I have the gouache class coming up soon. September, right?
Yes.
Yeah, September. I think it starts September 11th. My gouache class at Penn Studio Art School. There's a link below if anyone is interested to the gouache Penn Studio Art School, to my gouache course.
Yes, it's from September 11th to October 30th.
Oh, okay. So I'm taking my time here. I'm just building this up, making sure everything's lined up. The thing I know about whatever you do in terms of painting or drawing is that the more specific you are in the beginning, the less things are going to have to change, as you continue to work. Now, I know that when I put down marks, whether it's digital or drawing in pencil or it's gouache or oil paint or whatever, when I put something down, even though I try to be as accurate as possible, I know that I'm going to make changes to it. But obviously, the harder I try to be accurate from the beginning, the less I have to change as I go on. And the easier it is, especially if I'm trying to compare one shape to another, it's easier to do that if you got the other the other shape as close to accurate as you can get at that time. So I'm trying to be deliberate in the marks that I make. I'm trying not to worry too much about rendering any detail as far as getting the shapes correct. Like this hair right here, I'm not worried about the strands of hair or even the light and dark for right now. I'm more concerned about the shape of it as a whole, and then I come back into it later. This eraser, and I can make corrections. But right now, I just want to get these shapes right. I don't care about the details. I can get to the details later on.
Okay. Well, Richie asks, is Penn Studio in Philly?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. The class itself is online. You can be in Ohio and take the class. It doesn't matter. You can be I guess in the UK for that case and still be able to take the class. So because it's online.
Okay, well, he says, I live 10 minutes from there.
Oh.
I could, I could go.
Well, I live in the Bronx. So it's harder for me to get there. I wish it was a brick and mortar. Well, it is a brick and mortar school. I know that they have classes that are live, but my class won't be. My class will be, well, it'll be live online, and also I was told that, it'll be like they allow for if you're not able to make the class that day for whatever reason, you'll still be able to view it, not live, but it'll be recorded so you can view it if you happen to miss a session. I think it'll be on for a limited amount of time, but just in case anybody is not able to make a class or whatever because of scheduling,
Well, Richie had wrote down BX, which stands for Bronx. Yep.
Yes.
Yep, Richie, that's it. That's how we, not hyphenate, but shorten the Bronx. Yeah, we call it BX.
So I'm going to open up a layer underneath this now. And what I'm going to do is choose a color and choose a different brush. This is the synthetic flat bristle brush. And what I want to do, let me go a little darker than that, is indicate where the darks are. And I'm going to pick out lights here, but for right now, I just want to indicate just a clear, light and dark. Now, one of the things about these brushes here, like this synthetic brush, you kind of have to put one stroke at a time, because if you keep on moving it back and forth, it kind of lifts the paint again, and that's not what I want. So okay, so that's
okay. Well, Richie said I lived in Flatbush and Long Island.
Ah, okay.
New York fams in the house.
Ah, yeah. Flatbush and Long Island.
Yeah, that's Brooklyn, right? Flatbush is in Brooklyn.
Yeah, Flatbush is Brooklyn.
And then Long Island.
Long Island is like in between, I believe it's in between Brooklyn and Queens. Now this color is not permanent. It's just, too light. It just gives me an idea of where the light is coming from. For right now. Which is all we was looking for.
I was trying to make out the letters on his shirt. I think it's Otis.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it says.
Yeah, that's supposed to be, I think, an elevator company.
That's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, now I'm going to.
Okay. Well, Joy asks, is gouache much different from acrylics?
Yeah, gouache is much different from acrylics. For one thing, you can always reactivate gouache. Like when the gouache dries, and you want to make some changes, or you want to blend the color, you're still able to go ahead, add some water, and blend it. You know, you can continue to paint on top of it. But acrylic, when it dries, that's it. It dries. You can do dry brush over it, or you can scumble over it, which is kind of like dry brush, you know. But you can't reactivate it. You can just paint over it. And then you can do dry brush on gouache too, you know, once it dries up. Just very gently, so if you don't want to move the paint that's already there. But the other thing is with acrylic, you can build up the more of a thick impasto than you can with gouache. Gouache can be thick up until a point, but then it'll start to crack. So you don't want to go too heavy on the gouache. But that's, to me, that's the main difference. A gouache is still more of a watercolor type paint, where even though you use water to thin out the acrylics, what happens with acrylics is that the acrylics are made of plastic. They're plastic polymer based paint. So that's why they're kind of rubbery when they dry up. You know, when you kind of peel them off the palette and stuff like that, when it's dry, they're kind of rubbery because they're made of, it's made of plastic. Whereas, you know, with the gouache, it's more of a natural, it's paint. You know, it's the paint pigment with the binding like gum arabic or honey, you know, that they use to bind the paint. So that's the main difference between the two. Okay. Now what I did was I opened up another layer on top of the one I just painted, and I lowered the opacity on that layer, because what happens is that you know, I can just, it helps me to blend, it helps me to lower some of the darkness. I might not want some areas is dark, and you know, I go back into it and change it a bit, you know. But it allows me to build it up slowly, build up those changes slowly, so I'm not, I can, you know, like I'm not going too fast with it. I don't know if that made sense just now. And so what I'm going to, and what I also like to do is that when I'm finished with a layer like this, I just like to you know, I like to, gosh, what do you call it? I'm getting forgetful here. I just like to combine it with the layer below, so that I don't have too many layers open at once. You know, that'll possibly slow down my computer. So now I feel safer going into the drawing and not worrying about if I lose some of these lines, because I got the big shapes where I want them to be, and I don't need all these lines here. Oops, too light.
we have Kumar with us.
Kumar is back.
Yeah. He said, hey guys, got late today.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're here.
Yeah. I believe it's about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning where he's at. Yeah. So, yeah, I always remember that he's ahead of us, and it's very early in the morning for him.
Just lower the strength of this. You know what? I didn't lower the opacity. Okay. I didn't need it to be full strength. Not yet. I'm just building up my layers and building up the color. Eventually, all this pencil will be covered. You gonna say something?
No, I was, but I'm good.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess I'll combine these layers rather than have so many open layers.
What do the layers help you to do?
Well, the thing is, what I like to do is a layer is like putting a tracing paper on top of it, right?
Oh, okay.
So you carry this to a certain point, then you say, all right, well, I want to make some changes, but if I make the changes, I want to be able to go back to this layer. So let me go ahead and open up another layer, and then I can control the layer opacity, and you know, just how light or dark the layer is.
Mm-hmm.
So if I control the if I make it super opaque, I can paint on top of whatever and cover it. If I lower the opacity, then it's transparent, and I can see, you know, based on how opaque I allow it to be, I can still see what I did underneath.
Okay.
So I'm just kind of controlling the layer. See, now that this is probably about the 4th or 5th layer that I'm working on, you see that the marks I initially made are starting to be covered.
Oh, okay.
So that, you know, eventually it'll all be covered. What I want to do is just inch my way to it slowly. And you know, with these first strokes, I can really play around a little bit here. That as I build it up, and as I get closer and closer to what I want, I can you know, be more specific. But the painting on at least the way I do it seems to work better, look better with each each succeeding layers, each layer that I build on top of it.
Yeah, I was hoping Mr. Vic would be here with us today. I believe it was Mr. Vic that talked about getting the book, The Art Spirit.
The Art Spirit, that's right.
Yeah.
Because we talked about that book last week,
Right.
and he bought a copy based on our discussion. Now, if I have a link to the book below, and if you get the book, it's I'm an affiliate with Amazon, so just to be transparent, I get something for it, but I recommend the book because it is a great inspiration for any artist to read.
Okay. Well, we have Richie. He has 3 questions for you.
Go ahead, Richie.
Okay, so what do you want me to do? Read each question separate and answer it?
Yeah.
Or read all 3?
We'll read all 3 and then I'll figure out which order to answer.
Oh, okay. All right. 1. Do you have any tips on achieving different gray colors in gouache? 2. Do you add white later in the painting as you build layers? And 3, if I send you the picture of what I'm working on, could you critique it real quick?
I will not be able to critique it right now, but as a matter of fact, let me answer your question first, and I'll tell you how you can send me whatever it is that you have. First of all, a lot of it really depends on the painting itself. Ordinarily, like when I mix my gouache, I use white whenever I need it. I try to, if you look at the way I'm working at this, it's really no different than I would do in gouache. And I try to build up the color slowly, and everything is a matter of you try this, and if it doesn't work, you change it and you try something else. That's not to say there's not a method to the way that I paint, but when I use white, first of all, there's 2 types of white. There's and a lot of people don't realize when to use which white. There is titanium white, which is also called permanent white, and that is your more opaque and white. And a lot of people use that a lot. There's also another white, and it's called Zinc White. And now Zinc White is less opaque, and other manufacturers of gouache might even call it mixing white. So sometimes I use that to mix the colors, that white to mix in my colors, so my colors don't get too chalky from using the white. So I would use that instead of the permanent white or the titanium white. I would prefer to use that because the color looks better. That's just for mixing. Now, most of the time I am using the permanent white simply because it covers better. If I want to cover what's underneath, I won't use the zinc white. I would use the titanium or the permanent white, and that helps cover whatever you have underneath. If you want to paint over it, and it's also a thicker white. Obviously, since it's more opaque than the zinc white. But different whites have different uses, and those are the two whites that I would use. As far as mixing grays, it all depends on what you're looking for. If you want to make a gray, I wouldn't just use black and white. I would use, sometimes I would take ultramarine blue and burnt umber and use that to mix a dark, and I would use that to make a gray. Like I would add white to that, and that would make kind of like a neutral gray. If you use ivory black is a good black to use, because ivory black is a cool black. It's more on the blue side. So a lot of painters, there's like something called the Zorn palette. It's a palette where you use a limited number of colors. You use basically 4 colors to paint your picture, and it's ivory black, yellow ochre, cadmium red or vermilion, and titanium white. And with those 4 colors, you can just mix just about anything you want to make your painting. Now it's limited, so you're not going to get every color that you want. But if you're thinking of values, that's all you need. Values are really more important than color when it comes to painting. So anyway, but I would experiment with different combinations, like I said, like the ultramarine blue, the burnt umber, and get a dark color and try making a gray from that, and see if you like that gray, and if that works with the particular picture you are working on. But like I said, I can't get too specific if I don't see the picture, and so I can tell what works for that picture, for that particular painting. Okay, what I'm going to do is combine this, and then just make this a little larger, so it's easier for me to see what I'm doing. Okay. So with this layer, what I want to do is, actually, he has white on this side, that's behind him. But there is a little bit of light that hitting his face. It's kind of blended in with the door behind him. So instead of going for that white, in order to make it pop more, I'm going to, maybe I should move this behind the image. I move the layer behind the image so that I can put in a background. Let's see, I'm trying a different brush now. Chose is it a synthetic brush? These are all synthetic. This is a fan brush, synthetic fan brush, right? I want it more darker.
Okay. Well, Richie says, thank you, Gil. Perfectly explained.
Okay, I'm glad.
And we have CD Sketch with us.
Okay.
All right. He says hello.
Hi. You know, my wife and I were talking. She asked me a question early on about the difference between using photos and working from life. And one of the things is that it's really important to work from life because a photo limits you with the information that it's there. From life, there are a lot more things that you get out of what you see. One of them being is that when you have something, like if you see the phone in his hand, it's just basically a black, you see the background is black, or in some areas of the beard, it just goes all black. And his shirt is green. That's it. It's a different mixture of different greens, and that's it. What happens is when you're working from life, some of the things that the camera doesn't capture, your eyes are able to see if you're trained that way. And for one thing, if you look at the shirt, what you probably would get when you look at it from life is that you would be able to pick up within the shadows some warmer greens, maybe something in brown, some browns in there, and so forth, that you won't see in the photograph, because if it's green, the photo would take it and read it as different shades of green. The face is the same way, different warm colors. Some of them get close to the purplish, like around the lips and just the cheek near his nose. But aside from that, everything is basically warm. If you're used to working from life, you can, even though right now I'm just setting up before I put in the color, and there's a lot of corrections that I need to do right now. But when you're working from life, you would know, you would be able to figure out that, hey, I know that from my experience that I can use a cool color here to help this pop out more, or to make it look more vibrant. I can mix up my colors more. So that's just one thing you get from working from life that you can bring to working from photos. And again, I can also make changes. Like I said, that white is right there next to his head, and it's covering some of the light that's hitting his cheek next to the door right there. So I made it dark and see if I can work that into the painting.
Okay, it's interesting that you did that. You know what? I'm not an artist, but looking at the painting, his hair is, what I'm picking up is black, but yet you made the background black.
Yeah, I'm going. See, the thing is that I'm going to make changes to it. You know what? I know ahead of time the changes that I'm going to make to it.
Oh,
so
okay.
there's some areas that I prepare for the changes that I'm going to make. Because the thing about the way I work in this program is that I'm building up to things slowly. So I'm preparing the surface to receive the information that I'm going to put on later. So there's a lot of changes that have to take place in order for me to get this to work.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, I also want to say that I was talking earlier with my wife. Was I was planning. We were talking about planning a workshop for drawing, and I wanted to do this workshop sometime in the second week of September, and it would be on Zoom. And what I was going to do the workshop on is kind of like a boot camp for drawing the face and features, and I'm going to do it in pencil. And what I want to cover is things like the basics in terms of measurements, proportions, how to draw the features, things like that. And I thought that it would be neat to do a class on that in Zoom, and it would be drawing the head and drawing the features, and I would be talking about things like linear construction, as well as light and shade, and developing the head, and methods similar to Loomis, but not exactly that.
Okay. Well, Richie says I'm down to take that class for sure. Is he talking about the workshop, or is he talking about classes that you already committed to? I'm kind of...
Okay, well, Richie can answer that. Are you talking about the workshop I just mentioned in terms of drawing the face and features, or are you talking about my gouache painting class, which also starts in September? This is something different. This is I thought about doing this for a while, but I'll be honest with you, it is it took me a while to do live streaming. When I started doing live stream, this was this year, and I had never done this before. So
okay. Well, Richie did answer us. He said both.
Oh, okay. Well, great, Richie.
Okay.
Well, listen, the link for the paint class is down below. I will put a link and we'll also put it in the chats. I'll put a link, or I'll get the information about the Zoom class of drawing once I put it up, which should be sometime today or tomorrow. And I'll have all that information available. And I will put that information starting tomorrow on my community tab in my YouTube. Also, if there, who was it that asked about sharing his work so that I can critique it?
Oh, okay, just a minute. Was that Richie? That was Richie.
Okay, Richie, listen, I left some links below, and two of the links that I left was for my Instagram and for my Facebook. So if you are on any of those social media, you can message me there, and share a link with me, or you can message me on Facebook, or you can share a link with me on Instagram, however, and I will make sure to look out for it, and I'd be able to talk with you there. There's also, if you're interested, I do have a Patreon page, and one of the things I offer on Patreon, and there's a link below again, is that I do a one-on-one session that's a personal, paint or draw or ask questions about art and so forth, and that I would be able to answer any critiques, and so it's there's a tier for that I have on Patreon. So there's a link below. So if you're interested, it's a one-on-one Zoom. It's your time, and basically I will instruct you on whether it's about drawing or traditional or digital, you know, whether it's about painting. I paint in gouache as well as watercolor and oils. So I would be happy to instruct you in regards to those mediums, or you know, just about drawing and painting in general. So okay, so it's I like when I'm painting and I get to this point in the painting, because it's easier to build up on top of what's down there already. And my goal when I do digital is to do my best to get it to look as if it was traditional. I want to give the impression that you're looking at, you know, gouache or oil. And there are software to do it better in terms of the brushes than this software, than Sketchbook. But it you know, the brushes do a decent job of building an image that doesn't necessarily look like it's digital.
Okay, well, we have Harley Quinn.
Oh, okay.
Hey girl, how you doing? She says, hi Gil and Karen, how are you both doing? I hope you both had a fantastic week.
Well, thank you. I hope you did too.
Yeah. Oh, we got Maritza too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hi everyone, sorry I'm late. I was unable to log on early today. Yeah. So how you doing, Maritza? It's good to see you, to hear from you. I shouldn't say see you. I can't see her, but to hear from you.
So this, just lower the opacity here. Now there's different ways of doing this too. I don't normally go into all of these. I have used all of these different types of layers here, from multiply, you know, and color dodge, whatever. But mostly I use the opacity of the layer. It's just easier for me and more direct, you know, for me to do that.
Yeah. Well, Maritza says she's been busy with Academy. Oh, okay, Maritza. Are you soon to graduate, or you know? we have a very studious group of people. You know, Harlequin, you know, Maritza, you know, quite a bit of people that Kumar had finished school, going to what we call it college, you know, in the United States. I think they call it university and academy, you know, different things like that. Yeah. So Harlequin said, I had a good week. Oh, got a job offer. So very happy. That is so good.
Oh, that is great.
Congratulations on that job offer. You know. She has a question, Gil.
Yes.
Sorry if somebody had asked it, but do you paint on one layer or multiple in digital?
Okay, in digital, what I do, you can look at on the left. It's just over the next to the. I'm going to move it right now. You see the layer editor, right? And so what I do is I do multiple layers. There's a layer open on top for the reference, and then the layers beneath are the layers that I play around with. I have a background layer, and you see layer 1. Then what I've been doing is opening layers, and when I'm done with that layer, I will merge it with the layer below. So I change the layers. I'm working on multiple layers to answer your question, but I don't keep all of the layers unless there's a specific reason for me to do it. Like if I were to do an illustration and say I want the art director would ask for changes later on, so I want to make sure that I put different elements of the illustration on different layers so that I can make those changes later on. But if it's something like this that I'm just doing for myself, then I don't need all those layers, and it just makes the file big. And so I want a good resolution as far as the file is concerned, but I don't want an enormous file filled with all these different layers, different information on it. So if I no longer need to make any changes on a particular layer, I will merge the layer. Like this layer, I have this, it says layer 12. I have this on top of the layer with the main image, and I wanted to add some cool colors, so I lowered the opacity and I picked the blue, and so I just go over it in certain areas to make that area cooler where I think it needs to be. But yes, I do work on multiple layers. You know, and I build it up this way for a number of reasons. One, I'm putting in these short brush strokes, and that eventually, as I do layer on top of layer, helps build up texture.
Okay, well, Harlequin responds, thank you for both the congrats and for your answer. I am just starting to play around in digital, trying to keep a traditional look, so very helpful answer.
Oh, okay. Well, listen, I mentioned earlier on when I opened up, of course you can always look back, but there's several applications I use. This is Autodesk Sketchbook. If you don't have it already, it used to be a free application. It was bought out from Autodesk by someone else. They haven't done any updates yet, but they are charging for the application now. And you can get it on the Microsoft shop, or you can get it on the app. If you have a Mac, you can get it in the Apple shop. It's still very inexpensive. It's only $20, you know, which is not free, but it won't break the bank, you know. So there's that. I mean, as compared to something like Photoshop, it used to be that now they have a subscription format. that adds up over time, you know. But it used to be that if you bought the software outright, it would cost you somewhere upwards from $600-700. But there's this, like, this is Sketchbook. It's inexpensive. Another one is Leonardo, which is seems to be always in beta. I have the beta version. It's $39. Then there's there's Rebel. Rebel, if you want an application that looks close to traditional, okay, the best one out there that I've seen is Rebel. Rebel will cost you something. I think it's $79.99 or something. So it's about $80. But what happens with Rebel, you have. Let me see if I can find something that I've done in Rebel. You have something that looks a lot closer to traditional. Okay, let's see. Here's a bunch of the digital stuff that I've done over the years. Okay, so if I were to pick something out done in Rebel, I'm trying to pick out something that really shows the character of the paint. Okay. Here's a portrait I did in Rebel, and you can see from the look of the impasto on the background, the paint, how thick it looks, and how much it actually looks like an oil painting. You know, so it gives you a different feel than something like Photoshop or something. If you look on top of here, above his head, you can see how meaty those brush strokes look. You know, and that's the brushes you find in Rebel, and it's a very good software. I mean, if you could spring the $80 it costs to buy it. Like I said, that's not super expensive. There's software that costs a lot more, but I believe for me it was worth the investment because of the way the brushes work. You know, when you're working with something like what I'm working with now, like Sketchbook, or a lot of other software, even Photoshop or something like that, you would have to rely on something extra, some filter or something like that, to get the brushes to look that way. They're not going to look that way like right off the bat. Like Rebel, their brushes are just, they give you those meaty brush strokes right off. You know, so and it really looks like traditional media. With Sketchbook or with any other thing, you would have to really work hard to give that illusion that it was done traditionally. And you can do it. It's totally possible, but it's just the way you would have to layer it to give that impression. going to use now. Try this pencil, and I go into like on here in the toolbox. There's this sliding thing right here. This icon gives you the brush properties of whatever brush you want to use, and so I'm going to change the opacity. Oops. So let's change the color. And this is nice because the brush itself gives you a nice texture.
Okay, Harlequin has said, she said, I've mainly been using Critter.
Critter's a free software, yeah.
If you have heard of it, yeah.
Yeah, at the opening of this video, I had mentioned Critter. I also have that on my computer.
Oh yeah, that's right, you did talk about it.
Yeah. What I like about the softwares that I've picked over the years is that they're really intuitive. It's really easy to get to know these software. It's not a lot of bells and whistles. It's not a lot of extra stuff, and that's what I look for. I mean, I have Critter and I've used it, but I haven't really gone back to it, because I want something that I'm going to rely more on my ability to paint and draw than, having to look for the right brush. Sometimes, like one of the questions they get asked a lot is, well, what brush do you use, and whether you're doing traditional, you wanna find a nice brush. That's the truth, but also at the same time, you want to be able to paint with any brush that's out there. So I choose. Okay, let me choose something else here. I choose the digital media I have because, for one, it's easy to get to know. It's not a lot of I don't have to buy a manual to understand everything. When I started Sketchbook, I found my way around the program. This was years ago. Same thing with Rebel. I do read manuals and stuff like that in regards to the software, but I don't have to. I don't have to go too deep into it in order to know the software.
Is it true that because you have these different softwares, they kind of operate the same, so you can maneuver between one and the other?
Yeah, that's true. The way I paint in any of these softwares, whether it's Critter, whether it's Photoshop, or whether it's in Rebel, or here in Sketchbook, I do the layers the same way, and the only difference is the difference in the brush choices. Like if I had to pick one software where I really like the brushes, that would be Rebel. But I basically handle the painting the same way. So if it weren't for the brushes, this would be the same way I would work in Rebel as well. And ultimately, you got to choose what you're comfortable working with. Any questions?
Oh no. Not even by me. I'm sure I'll have one in a minute.
didn't do here was use any of my smudge brushes, which are right here. And because then you can move stuff around with this.
You said smudge?
Smudge, yes.
Oh, okay.
I'm smudging the color that you see here. And shaping the, you get so that you're thinking of working with clay more than paint when you're moving this stuff around this way.
Really nice. The way it's developing.
The smudge brush, I can get rid of some of those pencil lines.
Oh, okay.
And all I'm doing is just moving the color around. Just merge these two. Did that come over?
Not, I couldn't hear it clearly.
Okay. I have my son in his room in the background playing games on Discord channel, so hopefully he'll keep the language clean.
Okay, well, Holopan says, I like how patient you are with building up color. Very impressive watching it come together.
Thank you. Yeah, um, sometimes it takes a while to get where you want it to go. Like I said in the beginning, a lot of what you put down in the beginning is an approximation. And hopefully, what you put down close enough so that you would have to, as the work develops, you don't have to make as many changes. You know you're going to make changes. You know there are going to be mistakes that you got to correct. That's what painting is. Painting is, your first strokes is your best guesses, and then everything else, you develop as you go along. Okay. All right, so I got here closer to something that I want, and like I said, when I get what I want to do with that layer, with the information that's on there, what I do is I open up another layer, change the opacity so it's like putting a layer of tracing paper, and then I can make whatever corrections I want or whatever additions that I want. Like right now, I would like to put some of this, I'm going to change my brush. Here's a brush I haven't used. I would like to include, let me change some of these brush properties. Some of the white of his beard here. Just not details. I'm not looking to put down every stroke or every hair, but I'm looking to build up on it to give a kind of texture. Let me make this a great there are a lot of great painters that you can look at how they painted things like a beard, and they didn't paint every single whisker. You look at something painted by, say, John Singer Sargent, and you can see, or what's his name? Zorn, Andrew Zorn, and you can see they did not paint every whisker. They gave you an indication of the texture of the hair. And you don't miss that information. Okay?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. we have Gregor's with us again.
Okay.
Yeah. He said hello.
Hey.
Okay. The fight with details always ends in failure in my case. The fight with details.
Well, the thing is that I'm not thinking details actually. I'm thinking of trying to paint things as if they were shapes. I'm thinking of that first. Then I'm thinking of value. Then I'm thinking of color. You know, I'm not thinking detail. One of the things that earlier on that really I struggled with was trying to render everything. And it's just not necessary. And then you lose out on the things that are important in the painting. And it's not really the details. We tend to look at the details as if that was the thing. You know, people make comments about a painting saying, "Oh, it looks realistic," or "It looks like a photograph," and that is not always a compliment to the artist. Some artists don't regard that as a compliment because copying a photograph was never their goal. Their goal was to do a painting, whether it's based on a photograph. The photograph is used as reference and not as something to be copied. So, you know, I'm allowed to make changes. Like I wanted to change the background. I'm not following this color precisely. I'm putting some cool colors that I don't see in the photograph, but that I know would be there if I painted from life. So I'm using the photo as a reference, really, and I'm adding and subtracting what I want from it in order to make something that is my own. You know, but I wouldn't worry so much about details. If you get if you get those things right as far as the color and the shapes, then the details will emerge from that. Like, you know, there are shapes inside here. Like I gave a general description of where the eyes go, but after I give that overall description, I go back into it and try to recognize and pull out some different shapes that I see in there.
really excellent. Okay. Well, Gregor has said similarity, similar. Uh, yeah. Or let's see. Or do you think about it when you painted? Similarity.
Similarity? I don't understand.
Or do you think about it when you painted? It is enough to change a small detail and everything seems to be correct, but something is not quite right.
You know what? I think if you focus on the small details, then it's harder to get something right. You know, I think if you you want to try and look at the thing as a whole. One of the reasons why I don't start off with, like, say, if I draw and I start with the eye and I draw the eye and I don't move on until I'm done with that eye, right? But I don't have it to compare to the other eye because I didn't do the other eye. And I don't know the distance from that eye to the ear because I didn't plan it that way. So I'm trying to look at the thing as a whole and lining up the eyes, the ears, the nose, you know, lining up the features. But I have to look at the whole head and how those features relate to one another. If I zero in on the details earlier on, I'm going to miss making that correct from the beginning, so that I'm always going to be making more changes as I go on because it doesn't look correct compared to the other thing. If you draw something, to know that it's right, you have to have something to compare it to. So you draw the thing next to it and the thing next to that. So you start with the whole thing and then you zero in on the details once you got the big parts right. Once you got the big parts right, you can start going to the second largest part, then the third largest, then the fourth largest, and then pretty soon your details will emerge from that, you know. And it's always tempting to want to go to the details first. I do that. I've done that in certain spots here, and I've had to pull back. But that's what, you know, that's the experience of painting. Sometimes you jump ahead of yourself, and then you realize that, and you have to pull back. You make the corrections. You go back to a more generalized version of whatever it is you're doing. Then, after you get that general version right, then you can get to the particulars. But you have to start from the general, from the big areas. Otherwise, if you start from the details, it would make it difficult to complete the whole thing correctly. You will always make changes because maybe you got ahead of yourself in the details. So I try to limit that by remembering to go for the bigger areas. All right, so I'm happy with this layer. So I'm going to pull that down. Not that it doesn't need some correction, but I can do it that with the next layer. And I lowered the opacity a bit. And I go on from there. smudge brush, that's why. I'm wondering, why can't I get this color to work? Sometimes when I open up a new layer, all I want to do is put down a few brush strokes before I move on and open up another layer. You know, sometimes you just want to see what works. When you do things this way, what begins to happen after successive layers, you'll see like more texture, more possibilities for textures, more possibilities open themselves up. because of all the layers that you've built up. So it becomes really fun at this point because you can do a lot more with what's down, what you have down already. Now, it takes a lot of patience to, I don't have a fast way of doing this, but I like it after it gets to a certain point, like where it's at right now, where I'm able to continue to build up the color and mix with what's underneath, and it gives it some nice texture, richness of color, you know. You can continue to work on it and then find which you know there are edges and there are places where it's more sharp than others, and you know you build it up to a place where you can accent those things and make the transitions from one what do you call that now? Yeah. You know what? It's hard to think and paint at the same time.
Uh-huh.
You know. think of what to say. But okay, it's value. You can from what you can make the transition from one value to another more easily, and then you can find out which areas are sharper, rather than blending to the next thing.
Okay. Well, are there any faces that look better for you? Doesn't it make a difference?
I don't understand the question.
Okay, let me see if I can. Are there any faces that look better for you? Or I think he means, or does it? Or does it make a difference?
Well, you know what? The one thing you want to paint something that looks interesting to you, right? So, and everything can't. You want to make sure that whatever you're painting, you have something to say about it. If you don't have something to say about it, if you don't find something interesting in what you're doing, then it's more of an exercise, right? So if you want to select something, select something that looks interesting to you. I can't predict a lot of the times what is going to be interesting to me. It's something that when you come across it, you see it, and you're like, oh, okay, that looks interesting, And when we talked about the book, The Art Spirit, right? One of the things that Robert Henri had taught was he was talking to a student, and he was giving a critique of a landscape the student was doing, right? And what the student was able to do was make a beautiful painting, technically, of the landscape. And what Henri told him was, look, this is a wonderful painting as far as technique is concerned, but in the painting you haven't told me what makes this landscape interesting to you. Why did you pick this landscape? It looks like a technically proficient rendering of a landscape, but not of something so specific that it made you stop and say that I need to paint this. So it's a matter of what are you trying to say with what it is that you're doing. What is it that you want to does this look interesting to you, and does that come across in your work? And I think one of the number one sins in terms of painting that you can think of is making a boring painting, making something that just doesn't look interesting, and because it's uninspired, So you want to, like I said, pick out something that you have a reason to paint because it does look interesting. You don't have to worry about, well, you need to be able to paint everything. No, you need to be able to paint what's interesting to you. Because chances are, if it's interesting to you, that's what will come across and that's what other people will see when they look at your work. we are going over on time more than we usually do. Okay, so I am going to. Wait, oh yeah, wow. All right, so I'm going to stop this right here.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you as you were in the flow of it, you know, and I know that this is so much fun for you, so.
There's a lot more to do on this, and I'll continue to work on it afterwards, and I'll leave it like I normally do on my community tab. Thank you. You know I'm starting to forget things now, right? So I'm gonna leave it on the community tab once it's done, so you can look for it tomorrow. And also, while we're at it on the community tab, I will also leave a link to the workshop I'm planning on doing. It's on drawing the head, construction, how to do the linear construction, how to do the features, how to, like the eyes, the nose, the ears, how to do all of that, as well as after we do that part, we'll also talk about light and shade. So it's kind of a boot camp on drawings. And I'm going to make that workshop, probably put it up, plan it sometime tonight for about, I was thinking, I gave a date. I think it was September 12th, was it I gave?
That you were.
Yeah, I think September 12th. It's a Sunday. And so I would be doing that boot camp then. I'll also be working in the meantime on a handout to give during that boot camp in regards to that. So look for it. Look for it. It will be a Zoom session, a Zoom workshop. And I will make that information available sometime tonight or tomorrow on my community page. Again, there are links below. There are links to a number of things. And if there are any questions regarding digital painting or drawing in general, and I know you normally see me do gouache, right? If there's anything on gouache that you have, feel free to leave it in the comments below. The description of the video. We would love to hear from you guys, any comments, anything that you would want to share in regards to this live stream, because we will be back every Saturday to do this live stream and to paint and draw along with you guys. I changed it up this week, but I'll probably go back to doing gouache next week, unless somebody wants to suggest something in particular as far as software. Remember, if it's digital art, the main thing I do is either Sketchbook, Leonardo, which is an interesting one, or Rebel. Okay, I have a number of other software, but those are the ones that I mainly work with, and everything is similar to what I've done with this, and that's with the working with the layers. The only difference is the brushes that you have, and sometimes, like Rebel, your ability to change the texture of the canvas, so it would mimic either watercolor paper or it would mimic a canvas, so it would have that texture included in the painting. All right, so listen, my wife thanks you.
Yes.
Okay.
And let me just say one thing.
Sure.
Okay, from Maritza. Thank you, Gil and Karen. It's so encouraging. I really enjoy your live stream. I admire about Gil is his ability in traditional and digital art. Maritza, thank you so much for that comment.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoy his art too. I love the fact that he gets to share it, with other people that are in love with art as well.
No, thank you. Okay, so we'll be back next week. Please join us again, all right? Okay. Oh, yeah, go ahead, sign off.